Hello, my name is Henry Deschain, and I'm here with TruthStandsAlone. Uh, Friday, February 15th, there was a shooting in Aurora, Illinois. Most of us that followed the news would have heard about it, but it's lately not been given as much attention as even the Parkland shooting that was a year ago as we went past the anniversary there. I kind of like to talk about it because I feel like there's a few reasons that this was not given as much press as it was. Because for those of you that don't know, 5 people did die and 6 others were injured, including police officers. So this was a fairly large shooting, and if it had been, if the circumstances surrounding it had been different, I feel like this would have been a big news story that would have gone on for a few weeks. Here's why. So, just to give a summary of the shooting for those of you that weren't able to, kind of follow it when it was happening, it happened at a manufacturing business in Aurora, Illinois. The shooter's name was Gary Martin, and 5 people died. I'm not going to say their names, along with 6 other people injured, as I just said. Again, not going to say their names. I don't want to put anyone out there besides the person that did this. And so, that's pretty. Police took Martin down. After as soon as they responded, he did injure 2 of them, I believe. He did injure 2 of them when they got to the scene, but they did end up shooting and killing him. So the first reason that this was not covered is that Martin was a felon. In 1995, he was convicted in Mississippi of a felony. I don't know what it was. That was not in the news. In the articles that I was reading, they did not say exactly what he was convicted of, but they did mention that he was a convicted felon, which would mean that he should never have been able to, get a firearm. And then reason number 2 is again the same thing. He's a felon. He passed a background check. He should never have passed a background check. That is a classic example of the laws on the books not being enforced right now, and that being a big reason that we see, people being able to get guns. And so he wasn't. He was able to get a background check. So it didn't show up that he was a felon, even though it happened in 1995. So this was not, recent. This was not like their systems were backed up. This was again like 10 years before, 9 years before he. Oh no, excuse me. 19 years before he bought this gun in 2014. And so, he was caught. He was caught actually applying for a concealed carry permit after he had bought the gun. So the police caught him. They had the information again, just like we've seen a number of these shootings, that they had enough information that something was going to happen. And so he actually was caught when applying for a concealed permit. His felony came up, and they realized that he should never have been able to have a gun, much less a concealed carry permit. And so that leads on to reason number 4, in that the police sent him a letter asking to voluntarily relinquish the gun on March 16, 2014. They asked him to voluntarily relinquish the gun, and it never followed up. There was no follow-up. There was no, okay, maybe he didn't relinquish the gun. Maybe the convicted felon didn't respond to our lovely letter that told him to give his gun away. That might have crossed my mind a few times. And so, again, this stems from a problem of existing gun control laws. There are a lot of existing gun control laws, and this is something I see a lot with people that I talk about that say, oh, we need all this common sense gun control. Existing gun control laws. There are lots, and they're meant to stop things like this. And honestly, if they're enforced, we never hear about them, because if this guy had his gun taken away before he ever shot anyone, because again, the police went after him after his concealed permit. His concealed carry permit fell through because of his felony in 1995. The police just would go and take his gun. We would never have heard about it. If his background check had been true, if they had had the systems all worked out and together, he should never have gotten the gun in the first place. And so, again, this brings me back to, we have existing laws on the books. We have laws on the books that are meant to stop things like this, and often they're not enforced. Again, I really don't want to talk about, all shootings in general. I think that's, you have to look at each individual, so I'm not going to mention others here. But again, if you look into it, a lot of them are just not enforced. Anyway, this is, this is a big problem that we see, is that, the gun laws weren't enforced, but a bigger problem is that this story didn't get the coverage that it honestly deserved, because this is a great news story if you're pro-gun. Because then, there are multiple times in this where law enforcement failed. There are multiple times where law enforcement failed to enforce the laws on the books. Not to say anything poorly about them or that they're bad people, this was just a mistake. This was a mistake. The laws weren't being enforced on Gary Martin. And that's why he was able to go and, shoot up his business after he was fired. Or he illegally brought the firearm that day. I think that was premeditated. It never was clear if he knew he was going to be fired. But apparently in the article that I read, it said that the company issued warnings and different things leading up to this. So it was possible they knew, and it didn't get any coverage because it's so against everything that the left has really been saying, and that we need more gun controls. We need more gun control. We need more gun laws. We need all this stuff. When this shooting is a great example of how, if you enforce the laws on the books, mass shootings will go down, along with a lot of gun, crap. If you just enforce the laws on the books, if you just say convicted felons, not the best people to be buying guns. They've kind of shed their right to own a gun. That's the big thing, is that they have the right to own a gun. They convict a felony, and then suddenly that right is taken away. They have forfeit that right to own a gun. And so, you'll see this, and it doesn't get covered in the news. Another big thing that I didn't mention in the list, but that probably does play a factor, is it was a pistol. It was a pistol that was used. It wasn't an AR-15. It wasn't a ghost gun, they love to give news time on, because if it was, I actually do believe that this would have been a bigger incident. If everything else was the same and this had just been an AR-15, I do believe that the news would have given us a lot of time, kind of pushing that. Even though, again, this really stems from a failure to enforce laws. And so, we see this, and it really, I don't know, comment below. Does this incident make you distrust the media? That's kind of where I am. I distrust the media at this point a lot of the time, just because I see stuff like this, and I see it's very, it's not telling a lie, but it's being, it's not being genuine. It's not, it's very just kind of shady, under, kind of sleight of hand. It's not being fair to the story. And I think that is a big problem that we see. Anyway, comment below, like, subscribe. If you want to see the source that we use, it will be in the description below. Again, I couldn't find a lot on this, so there's only actually going to be really one source, and it's by CNN now. So, for those of you that aren't aware, CNN is a pretty left-leaning news site, so I do think anything that I've cited here had to have been 100% correct for them to have put it in. If there was a shadow of a doubt in their mind, they would have just left it out. So yeah, please subscribe, comment below, and please tell me, does this stuff make you distrust the mainstream media? I really want to know, because for me, stuff like this, it really doesn't, it doesn't help their case. As I've said before, I don't really trust. I'm not a big truster in mainstream media. Anyway, thank you, and we'll see you again in the next video.